Hi, I'm Wayne Clancy, and I have the wonderful opportunity and pleasure of being here with John King, author of New York Times #1 bestseller, Tribal Leadership. Tribal leadership did extremely well. At the core is something called the culture map. Could you share with us a little bit about some of the insights that caused you to come to those conclusions with the culture map?
Yeah, actually, it started with failure.
A lot of things do.
A lot of great things do.
That's right.
I was a strategist, and I was losing in the game of getting strategy. And even though what I was delivering was the kind of the gold standard of strategies, wondering about that, researching about that, I reread Peter Drucker, and Drucker, of course, said that culture eats strategy for breakfast every day. In that moment, I realized I was no longer a strategist, and I'm now a cultural anthropologist.
I love that line.
And so I started studying it, and over a period of almost 10 years, came up with a bunch of stuff, part of which was the cultural map.
John, you've said that you've been looking for the Cultural Map Index for 17 years.
Yeah.
So can you share what that journey and what you were actually looking for and why you think you found it today?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll tell you, it was a lot of bumping into things in the dark, and knowing what I wanted. If you've ever had that experience of I don't know, but I'll know when I run into it, this was that. Actually saw many ways of measuring. Some better than others, some not good at all. But when I met this and ran into you, it was one of those, oh, that's what I've been looking for, and it just happened to have taken 17 years to get there. The reason being is that if you've ever worked with a manager, they want to know how to measure things. And when you're doing soft stuff, like relationships and so on like that, there's not been a way to measure it. First time in history that I've seen that we've got an actual way to quantify and measure the quality of our relationships. And so that's what the Culture Gap Index is. It's designed to measure the quality of our relationships.
Consistent stage 4 culture affects all of the different stakeholders within an organization. Everybody from the employees to the customers to the distributors to the channel partners, everyone else. But they're so often in silos still. We've talked before about it, and it's an interesting concept about how you can have an organizational culture, but you can also have a number of cultures within the organization that are counterproductive.
Yeah, we call them tribes. And for the most part, tribally speaking, most organizations are actually kind of stuck at stage 2 and stage 3. So how do we actually take what we know and leverage that in such a way that we can stabilize our partnerships? And by the way, that's the key thing. It's about partnerships rather than having somebody who is the charismatic, strong, I'm great, you're not leader, right?
So many of us had that wonderful experience of being with a really collaborative, high-performance team, stage 4, stage 5 in your research. And we've also been a part of that huge disappointment when it starts to break down. You've talked about some of your continued work since the book is really focused on maintaining a high-performance culture.
We think we've cracked the code on that. In fact, we know we've cracked the code on that. And at its heart, what it has to do with is that it isn't an individual's game anymore. It's a social game where we are in relationship, partnership, and I mean real partnership, with other people in such a way that they got our back, we got their back, everybody's got each other's back, and we are all committed, driven by our values, working on projects worth working on, towards some kind of noble cause. So if you want to create a stage 4 culture, you have to have all of that. You got to have other folks that are in it like you, who are leading from their current position. We all have to have resonant values, working on projects that are worth working on, and working towards some kind of perceived noble cause. Right?
And a lot of that is in how we treat each other and being able to maintain that level of respect.
Fundamental. Absolutely fundamental. If you don't know how to play well with your brothers and sisters, if you don't know how to play with other people, then you're not going to ever get to any place where you're going to be able to stabilize stage 4. Stage 4 is a social phenomenon that creates a new context, but the interesting thing about it is it also provides an environment in which the outcomes just explode on people.
And it's funny because so often people look at strategy and culture and put them in different buckets, but they really are interdependent on each other.
Yes.
And culture can have a huge impact on the effectiveness of strategy. Can you share a little bit about how culture fits in and what we're doing fits into the whole strategy component of it, so things are executed well and the performance is maintained?
Well, I like the way you said it, Wayne. The context is culture, and having a culture that is a collaborative, cooperative, partnering kind of culture. The content is actually driven by strategy. So that's our plan. That's how we're going to get there, and the tactics are the actual execution steps that we're doing. And if you don't have a context, you're just going to get what you get, what we call the drift. You're just going to drift forward. And sorry to say, but many, many large organizations and entities are drifting nowadays. It's a leadership issue. What we don't understand about leadership is that it's not management on steroids. It actually is governed by the permission of the people being led. So that takes something. And if you're going to do that, you have to have a culture that actually allows for people to grant permission.